Dear students, welcome to this program. Now we will have an important topic for discussion that relates to UG first year, that is first semester. The topic for discussion is basic and applied fields of psychology. So we will discuss what are the basic fields or branches of psychology and also what are the applied fields of psychology. As you know, there are various branches, basic branches and also applied branches. Before we discuss in detail the different fields of psychology, now let us first know what is meant by psychology. What is the definition of psychology? So that the point will be clear, you can easily understand different fields of psychology. Yes, now the definition, it has undergone many changes, many modifications during different years. In the earlier days, the scientists said psychology is the study of soul. It has spiritual and philosophical implications. Some psychologists have not accepted this type of definition, that is soul. Later psychologists said psychology is the study of mind, but some psychologists have also not accepted this definition because mind is not observable, mind cannot be measured. So, what cannot be observed, what cannot be measured, so we cannot be made part of psychology. Especially the Watson, the father of behaviorism, is a popular psychologist. He said the definition of mind cannot be accepted because it cannot be observed and cannot be measured. He said psychology is a scientific study of behavior. That is the definition, meaning given by the Watson. That is I will repeat it, it is a scientific study of human behavior. Behavior here includes the mental process and behavior, emotions, etc. Later some people said, some psychologists said, it is a study of consciousness, but that was not so accepted by many psychologists. So, like this has gone different the changes, modifications in the definition of psychology. Once the Woodworth, the American psychologist, he said regarding the definition of psychology, he said the psychology lost its soul, lost its mind, then it lost its consciousness, then it is now finally behavior is retained. He said psychology is the study of behavior. Later, one more term is added to the definition of psychology. That is, it is a scientific study of behavior and mental processes. Here one more point you have to remember here. Behavior of whom? Is it human beings or animals? It is both. It studies behavior of both humans and also animals. So, we can say the behavior of organisms, and this is a study of behavior and mental process. And actually this word or the term psychology derived from Greek words, two Greek words. One is psyche, that is soul, and logo, it is a study. And one more point that we have to remember here before we discuss in detail different fields of psychology, whether it is an independent discipline or it is a part of some other discipline. Earlier days, it was not an independent discipline, it was a part of philosophy. Later, it is made an independent discipline. For this, William Wundt is responsible. William Wundt argued that the psychology is that it is an independent discipline because it focuses on experimentation. He brought the concept of experimentation and empirical research in the subject of psychology. So, William Wundt said psychology is an independent discipline. It is not a part of any other discipline. And the contribution of William Wundt in this regard, we have to remember, the contribution here is William Wundt, who is the father of experimental psychology. He has for the first time in the world, he has established experimental laboratory for conducting various research studies through experiments. That was started in Leipzig University, Germany. Now we will discuss the different branches of psychology, which is divided into two basic fields or branches or areas. You can use any term, basic areas, basic branches or basic fields. And other one is applied fields, applied branches and applied areas. Under the category of applied or under the category of basic subjects or basic branches, various subjects are there, the fields are there. For example, the biopsychology or biological psychology and cognitive psychology, personality psychology, social psychology and developmental psychology and the comparative psychology, cultural psychology, like that there are many basic subjects of psychology. And as a other part is the applied psychology. There are innumerable branches under the category of the applied fields or applied branches of psychology. They start with counseling psychology, clinical psychology, rehabilitation psychology, sports psychology, health psychology, like that, aviation psychology, like that there are many branches, subfields of psychology. And we have to remember here, what is the difference between basic and applied fields of psychology? Is there any difference? First of all, there is a difference between basic subjects or basic branches and applied branches. The difference is basic branches or basic fields, they focus on fundamental principles of behavior, fundamental principles of thought, fundamental principles of feelings and emotions, and they generate the knowledge through experimentation, they generate knowledge through empirical research. And the applied psychology is what the knowledge generated through basic branches, that is applied to different areas of our human life, the problems, to solve the human problems, and that is day-to-day life. Now we will discuss initially the basic branches. So first we will talk about the biopsychology. It has different names. Some people say it is a biological psychology, like that different names are there. So this biopsychology or biological psychology, it focuses on the connection between mind and body and the reciprocal influence on body and the mind. Mind influence the body and body influence the mind. There is interconnection is there, and the different aspects, how the mind influence the body and how the body influence the behavior. For example, take the brain is an important aspect that controls the behavior. We receive the information from the organs of the body, the different senses. That is, we receive visual information through eyes and auditory information through ears. So that with the information received, the brain receives the information, and for the information processed there and sends back the signals to the body to act. That is the connection, and it's a focus on different aspects. For example, take the subject of stress. It is a psychological aspects, how it affects the body. Many studies have been conducted to find out the relationship between this stress and the diseases. Most of the diseases that human beings are having, for example, heart disease or diabetes, etc., they are because of the stress level is high. And as part of this biopsychology or biological psychology, we focus on different aspects. The psychologists focus on different areas. That is, they focus on hormonal imbalances, the relationship between hormonal imbalances and psychological disorder. And they also find out the relationship between genetic factors and the behavioral aspect. For example, the genetic factors, there is a relationship between the intelligence and aptitude. For example, hereditary influence the intelligence level on the aptitude. Like that we focus on different areas. And the hormonal imbalances, there are many disorders are there, that is because of hormonal imbalances, and many research studies have also been conducted to find out the relationship between body and mind. And take the hormone, for example, the 4H is there, the hormonal, that means happy hormones, 4 happy hormones, that is the serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, endorphin. This chemical, in this regard we have to remember one famous scientist, that is Charles Darwin. He played a major role in this area, and his theories, his findings contributed a lot for the biopsychology. And other important basic field is cognitive psychology. It tries to find out the mental processes, how the memory, how we memorize, the factors that will influence the learning, the factors that will influence our memory, that factors that will influence forgetting, the factors that will influence our thinking process, and factors that will influence language development. So, all these concepts, the concepts like the memory, forgetting, learning, the intelligence, aptitude, the perception, all these things are covered as part of cognitive psychology. There are many theories are also, many theories are there. The one important theory, that is the famous theory, is Piaget's cognitive development theory is one, and Vygotski's theory of social cultural theory. They made different experiments to find out how the development takes place in the cognition. And there are also many developmental theories are there, and memory theories are there. And Atkinson, he has developed one theory to find out the different process of memory. That memory, the theory name is information processing model. And forgetting theories are also there as part of this cognitive psychology. For example, reinforcement or interference theory. This also explains how the interference, how the forgetting takes place because of due to various interferences. And language development is there, how the language develops, and the Skinner's language development theory is there, and ecological theory of Brunner. That is also an important psychologist who has developed the different theories. This is about the cognitive psychology. Then the social psychology. This is also a popular subject of psychology. It is very useful because it studies the social behavior of human beings. How a person behaves when he is in a group. How person is influenced by the presence of the group, and how the present group influences the individual, and how the individual influences the group. For example, one individual influences the behavior of the group. For example, one leader, you will influence the behavior of a number of people. There is a group. So these aspects are studied as part of social psychology. The Alport is there, a famous social psychologist. He said psychology, it studies how the people's behavior takes place in the presence or the absence of human beings. Human people are not there, the absence of people also, the behavior changes. And there are various psychologists, social psychologists, which you have to remember in social psychology. For example, you take Gordon Allport. He said that attitude is the most important aspect of social psychology. He also recommended that we have to focus research on attitude. Many studies have to be conducted on the attitude. He said that attitude is the most important concept of social psychology. And the Ash is there. He is a famous social psychologist. They have conducted various studies and experiments to find out the group pressure on the behavior of the people. It is called conformity. That is one. And Milgram is there. He is also an important social psychologist. He conducted various experiments on the concept of obedience. And Levin is treated as father of social psychology. He said the behavior is product of person and situation. What do you mean by person and what do you mean by situation? He said behavior is a product of or the result of person, means personality characteristics is interest, emotion, all these personal characteristics of the person, and the situation. That is, situation includes environmental factors. Both these two factors interact and that leads to the human behavior. So I repeat for the understanding of the students, Levin, the father of social psychology, he said that human behavior is the product of personality or person's characteristics and situational factors or environmental factors. We have to take into consideration not only the personality of the person, we have to take the environmental factors or the situation in which the person is, because the person's behavior will be different. A person behaves in one situation and the behavior in another situation will be different. That means situation also determines the behavior of the people. At the same time, the personality characteristics of the person also determines the behavior of the people. So both things have to be taken into consideration to understand the human behavior of the human behavior. And thinking is an important aspect, that the cognition is there. So the Albert and Bandura is also social psychologist, and he has developed a beautiful experiment he has conducted on, it is called Bobo doll experiments. He has tried to find out the influence of media on media, that is called the behavior. It is simply called media violence, how the media influence the behavior of the people. It is a very popular experiment. And other subject is developmental psychology. Developmental psychology, it also deals with how the growth, human growth and changes take place throughout the lifespan. I repeat, the person's the cognitive development changes from different age stages and different areas at different ages. So, how the thought process, how the development changes through different periods throughout the lifespan. This is divided into different stages. Development psychologists or lifespan development, that is divided into different stages or different the areas. That is, one is it actually started with infancy and babyhood. Earlier the studies mostly focused on infancy and childhood. Later the studies extended to adolescent and the adulthood and the elderly. That means throughout the life, that means entire life is covered as part of developmental psychology. Here also various studies and experiments have been conducted to find out the how the mind, how the cognition, how the language develops from one period to another period. Some of the important theories here is, as I said earlier, that Piaget's cognitive development theory is there, and Bowlby's attachment theory, and Brenner theory of ecological aspects. Like that, there are various developmental theories are there. So, it focuses how the thinking process, how the cognition process, the changes from one period to another period, how they grow. It takes into there are three dimensions are there. The studies focus on three dimensions. One is physical dimension of the body, and the other dimension is psychological dimension. Other dimension is the social dimension. Social development, emotional development, and physical development. All these aspects are covered as part of developmental psychology. And other important branch is experimental psychology. As I said earlier, the main founder of this experimental psychology branch is Wilhelm Wundt, who has established the first world laboratory in Leipzig. He laid the foundation for the subject of, or the discipline of, experimental psychology. So here he said that psychology should be based on experimental studies. You have to bring in the concept of experimentation in psychology. So, experimental designs, he has devised different experimental designs and research methods, and experimental principles have to be applied. And there are different variables. For example, dependent variable is there, independent variable is there, and other intervening variable is there. All students may be knowing the two variables, that is independent variable all students will know, and dependent variable all students will know. But there is another variable, that is intervening variable. Actually, that is not part of the experiment, but that will be there, that will be present because of various conditions that distorts the results of the experiment. So, experimental psychologists or the psychologists, when they conduct experiments or when they conduct research studies, they have to take into consideration the intervening variable because it affects the results of the experiment. So, this intervening variable, it is also called confounding variable. It is also called extraneous variable because it is not part of the experiment, it is outside the experiment. And why it is called intervening variable? It interferes with the experiment. So, psychologists, when they conduct the experimental studies or the research studies, they have to be careful about the presence of this intervening variable. So, they have to take various steps to control the influence of intervening variable. And some of the popular experiments that have been conducted earlier, for example, Watson, he has conducted a beautiful experiment, and his name is Little Albert experiment. Little Albert experiment, it is a very popular one. He conducted this experiment on a child of 5 to 8 years old to find out on the subject, on the topic of emotions, especially the fear. So, that was the one experiment that was conducted, and as I said earlier, that is Bandura's BRAOU doll experiment to find out the influence of media on the behavior, and the other experiment is Milgram experiment, obedience, that is a very popular one, and the Stanford prison experiment. Like that, there are very many experiments, not one or two. There are various experiments that have been conducted in psychology. So, in part, what you have to remember is, when you conduct experiments, we have to apply the scientific principles. You have to apply the scientific methods so that we will get accurate results. So, we have to take care of the principle and experimental designs, and mostly under this, the scientists, they conduct the experiments in the laboratory. And comparative psychology is another one, comparative psychology. It is also called animal psychology. So, they conduct experiments on animals like rats, cats, dogs, monkeys, chimpanzees, pigeons, etc. On various animals, experiments are conducted. Why these experiments are conducted? They apply these results to the human beings. They compare and apply the findings to human beings. For example, the Skinner, he has conducted an experiment on the rats. The Thorndike, he has formulated theory called trial and error learning. Trial and error learning. As part of this theory, he has conducted the experiment on cats, and the results he applied to the educational or to the learning of human beings. And the BRAOU is there, BRAOU classical conditioning, he conduct experiments on dogs. So, like that, various experiments have been conducted on animals like rats, then the dogs, and the cats, the monkeys, chimpanzees. For example, chimpanzee. The Kohler is there, he is a Gestalt psychologist who is the developer formulated theory called insight learning theory. Insight learning theory. He conducted experiments on chimpanzees. So, like that, many experiments have been conducted. Mostly this relates to the learning experiments. And the cross-cultural psychology is the other one. What is this cross-cultural psychology? So, here what this is, these studies have been conducted to find out culture-specific behaviors. The behaviors, certain behaviors are very specific to certain cultures, and certain behaviors are universal. Throughout the world, we will find similar behaviors, but certain behaviors are not universal. Only in certain cultures, that type of behavior you will find. So, as part of this cultural psychology, they conduct the studies in different cultures across the world. So, they find out through these experiments or the studies, they find out culture specific behaviors and universal behaviors. So, this is called cultural psychology, and personality psychology is other one. These are the basic subjects. So, they understand the personality characteristics of the persons or the differences between the persons. Why one person is different from other person, in what respect. So, this find out the individual differences in personality characteristics, individual differences in thinking, in feeling and behaving. So, to find out these individual differences, various personality studies have been conducted, and different theories have also been formulated. And some of the popular personality theories are psychodynamic theory. Psychodynamic theory, it is formulated by the Freud and the Erikson, psychosocial development. Freud's is psychosexual development, Erikson's is psychosocial development. Both are different. And the Cattell is there, trait theories are there, and humanistic theories are there, and psychodynamic, psychoanalytic theories are there. Three different categories. Under the trait category, Alford theory is there, and Ising other person, like that, many trait theories are there. And as part of this applied psychology, there are many different branches, as I told you. Counseling psychology, they are under counseling, they are again educational counseling, vocational counseling, and the personal counseling, the personal problems. Under the personal counseling, they solve the problems of the individuals. And the clinical psychology is there. It focuses on the diagnosis, it focuses on the assessment, it focuses on the treatment, it focuses on the causes and consequences of the diseases. And the rehabilitation psychology is there, and health psychology is there. Certain overlapping is there. These 3-4 subjects, that is counseling psychology, clinical psychology, rehabilitation psychology, health psychology, these not exactly similar, but the very differences are there, but certain overlapping is there, certain similarities are there. These normal counseling, they focus on mild psychological disorders, and whereas the clinical psychology, they focus on serious psychological disorders like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder or various personality disorders. And rehabilitation psychologists, they focus on certain disabilities. Like this, various applied psychology subjects are there. As I told you, counseling psychology, clinical psychology, and sports psychology, and aviation psychology, different applied psychology fields are there. Students, the students have to understand both basic subjects and also the applied fields, so that you will get a comprehensive idea of the psychology. Thank you.